Hello everyone, this is DA from E Academy. In the previous video, we have derived this external stiffness matrix on the element level. And again, we're still in the second step of the finite element method, in which we have to derive the element level equations. And we have covered this part of equation. We have determined the left hand side of the equation. And now we have to look at the right hand side of the equation, the force vector, and see what are the things that we need to simplify and then derive the element level equation for the force vector. So I'm going to write the detail of the force vector here. So this is the force vector we have. Now this force vector have two parts, this integral and this summation part. So now we look at this summation part. Here we have psi function or the shape function. And we have discussed in many videos that this shape function or the psi function is actually an interpolating function. And its property is that at a certain point, that is x bar, the sum of the shape functions is equal to 1. So this sum would be equal to 1 because of its property as an interpolating function. So if it is equal to 1, then the only thing that is left, that is Qj, that is representing a discrete force at a certain node. So the first term of this force vector is actually having this shape function and this small f representing the distributed external force or the law that is continuous in an element. There is a difference between the capital F and the small f. This capital F is representing the total force of an eth element, and this small f is actually a discrete load on the eth element. Here there is no subscript for this f because this f is distributed over the whole surface, not just on the nodes. So for example, this is the first node and this is the second node, so this f would be distributed all over this element from node 1 to node 2. Whereas this q, capital Q, is representing the node that is at a certain point or at the certain node of an element. For example, this Q here is, for example, 3 Newton, and this Q is here, let's suppose, 1 Newton. So this Q, capital Q, is representing a modal force, but this small f is representing a distributed load over the eth element. So we can say that the force vector, that is capital F, is equal to the sum of the distributed force and the point force on all the nodes in an eth element. So if the force, that is a small f, is a distributed force, so it should be, the unit would be in newtons per the unit of the length of an element. And we are in the second step of deriving an element level equation. Now in this step, we have to transform this continuous load into discrete loads, because our system of equation in the finite element methods are discrete and not continuous. We're talking in the nodes, we're talking in the first node, the second node, the eth element. We're not talking about the whole structure of something. We're actually taking discrete amount of the structure, and we're talking about that this node is having a certain force load in either direction, and same case for this. So now we have to transform this discrete force into continuum values on either nodes because of the structure of our finite element method. So let's take the linear element. We have two nodes, the first and the second node. Now we have to specify the values of f in this element for the first node and the second node. And we'll start by having I1 and j is equal to 1. So that we have I and j both are equal to 1. So this is f1, eth element. The domain is from 0 to h, that is the length of an element. Subscript e. This is the shape function for 1. This is the linear shape function that we have derived in our previous video. So this is the shape function. that is distributed over the whole element, plus this is the external load because this is Qj, so Q1 of the eth element. Now in all of this thing, we know the value of psi1 that we have derived in our previous videos, the shape function, the linear shape function in the local coordinate system. And we know the value. The value is equal to 1 minus x bar by the length of an element. And the force itself and all other things remains the same. Now we have to take the integral. Here f is constant, we have to take the integral with respect to x. This is very straightforward. By taking 1, that is x bar, having a limit of 0 to h, minus x bar squared by this from 0 to h, and this whole thing is multiplied by the force vector by the distributed force plus this load. Now we have to simplify it. This would be h, the length, minus this would be h squared by 2he. So after simplifying it, we will be getting these two things, f multiplied by the length divided by 2 plus that is q. So if we, for the sake of simplicity, if we suppose that this whole thing is equal to some small q, so this is q1 because we have I1 here, so q1 for an eth element plus that is capital Q1 for E. Here Q1 is a discrete part of the continuous load, that is F on node 1, and the total force on node 1 is a linear combination of this small q and capital Q. So this was on the node 1, and we have to derive it for the node 2. All the things remain the same except we have to use psi2 here and take the integral just like this, and after solving and after plugging the psi2, that was x bar by h, we will be getting the same thing, the same force, this, which implies that when we are in the linear element, the total force is distributed equally within the two nodes. Half of the force is acting on the node 1 and half of the force is acting on the node 2. But this wouldn't be the case if we go in the higher orders. For example, if we're in the quadratic element, so this wouldn't be the case. The case would be different. You will get to know when you derive the force vectors for the quadratic equation, and you can derive the quadratic force vectors easily by following the same steps. So if we visualize it, initially what was the condition? That we have a force that is continuous from 1 to the second node. And now what we have done, this is the continuous load, the distributed load in an element, and we have converted this force into two parts. This is representing discrete part, and this is representing the nodal, the point force vector that was initially acting on the nodes of an element. So if it was initially, this force was initially, let's suppose it was 2 Newton millimeter. Here it is per millimeter because the length of an element is supposed to be 1 millimeter. So this Q1, this small Q1 here is equal to the force times the length divided by 2. That was the thing that we have just derived. So this force, 2 Newton per millimeter, this was a millimeter length divided by 2. So we will be getting force, a discrete force of a Newton on this side, and same case for this side. So this Q2 for 1 Newton and this Q1 for 1 Newton on this end. So if we have to convert it into a matrix form, because initially what we have a force vector. So writing it for an element, for any nth element that is linear, we have 2 nodes per element, and that is equal to this part that is a continuous or discrete pod, and this part that was a nodal load. So we can take this thing out, that is same thing. So we will be getting, if we take FH by 2 common from this, and we can write this Q1E and Q2 this here. So this is the force vector. This is the force vector for a linear element that have 2 nodes in it, and you can derive the same force vector when we have quadratic element or cubic element or so on and so forth. So this is an element level algebraic discrete system for a force vector. If we combine this discrete system with the stiffness matrix that we have derived in just previous video, then we will have a complete element level discrete system with just 2 nodes, and the shape functions are linear. Derived element level stiffness matrix, we have derived element level force vector, and now this is the end of the second step, that is the derivation of element level equations. And in the next step we will be assembling all of the things that we have so far to get into the global coordinate system and see what we have done and how this is very intuitive to have finite element method instead of other methods to approximate the solution for the differential equation. So this is for now. If you're looking for more such videos, then you can subscribe this channel in order to watch more upcoming videos. We will meet in the next video. Till then, take care. Goodbye.